Hello and welcome to the One Giant Leap podcast with Jeff Shrimpton. And today my guest is David Lee, who's a good buddy of mine. He's a fantastic coach up in the Midlands somewhere. Anywhere north of Watford's all the same to me.
All the same.
Whereabouts are you exactly, David?
I'm in a place called Henley in Arden, and it's halfway between Solihull and Stratford-upon-Avon, if that helps at all. But right in the middle of the country.
Okay, great. So nowhere near the seaside.
Absolutely nowhere. Couldn't have been further away. All my hobbies were around the sea. I was either rowing on it, or I was sailing on it, or I was probably having a few pints next to it. And then I got married, and my wife took me right to the middle of the country. So
move as far away from it.
Further away from all the things I love most.
Brilliant. So, David, I know you very well. You're a coach, and a lot of the things that are important to us as coaches, I think, are quite aligned. So it'd be really interesting to have a conversation about that today. But tell me what sort of people that you work with and what result that you help them get.
Great, thanks, Jeff. It's I suppose we have to try and, there's lots of different clients and they're all individuals. But if I was to try and kind of bring them together as a group, then I tend to work with people who are probably aged between 35 and 50. They've been running their own business probably for 20, 25 years. Chances are they started that business with their bare hands. So, for example, one of the guys I was working with owns a skip hire business, and he started his business with one skip, one shovel and one truck. And he built that business up to something which was really sort of quite significant. So they've all built the business up over the years. They would all regard themselves as being uneducated in terms of business. So they know how to run the business, but they don't know the business of business. And they've all met a bit of a plateau. And that plateau quite often for me is not so much they're trying to make more money, but they're trying to get their life back, or they're trying to get more freedom. So the result that I'm trying to give all my clients, one way or the other, is more freedom. Does that make sense?
It does. What do they do with that freedom, do you think?
Well, sometimes that can be a challenge, because sometimes they haven't actually thought through what it is they want to do with freedom, but actually they quite enjoy that experience of having more time on their hands. So one of my clients, who should remain nameless, we spent 2 years, we completely freed him up from everything he was doing in his business. He then started investing in property, and when his builders were running out of nails, he was jumping in the car and going up to the builder's merchant to get nails, and then he brought them back. And I said to this client, that wasn't what we did. That wasn't the plan. We weren't trying to free you up to go and buy bags of nails. And he said to me, David, I haven't had the time in 20 years just to go and buy a bag of nails, have a chat in the builder's merchant, and come back and talk to the guys on talk to the guys on the site. And actually, for him, that was freedom, because he had the money to do what he wanted to do, and he actually didn't want to do very much straight away. But as time developed, he started doing more and more things.
Well, I think it takes quite a lot of coaching, actually, and thinking about what you're going to do with some free time. I remember years ago, I met someone who's a retirement coach. And at first I went, what do you want that for? But actually, when you think about it, someone who's been, really successful, maybe they've got loads of people that kind of jump when they say jump, and all of a sudden you've retired, you've got nothing to do. That can be a real challenge for people. And you've actually got to be quite creative and start working on bucket lists and say, well, actually, I'm going to go and visit that place or do that thing and make a list and crack on with it, don't you?
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I had that experience myself when not very long ago, my wife said to me, so David, when are you going to retire? Because I'm coming up to the traditional sort of retirement age. And it really shook me.
Aren't you?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. It really shook me, not because of the idea of retiring, but it was actually the thought of, well, what would I do if I retired? And I haven't cracked that nut for myself yet, but at least I know that if I wanted to, I kind of could. But a lot of people who've got businesses which they are still heavily involved in day to day, they just can't, because they can't see how they can ever let it go. Yeah. So it is a big question, and bucket list and all that kind of stuff. That's great. That's probably not the way I'd look at it, but it's a very valid way of doing it. I'm more relaxed in my coaching. My theory is that I'll probably be shot for this really, but I just believe that, you know, as time goes on, as you move from one phase of your life to the next, then quite often that takes care of itself because you discover other things that you want to do, which you never had the time to investigate before. I get sacked for saying that.
So when you meet clients, what do you think is their main problem?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind is Groundhog Day. They feel like it's Groundhog Day. Same old, same old, same old. Or as one of our friends said, was it, I won't say it, something about different shit, same toilet, or something like that. You know,
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but it's that thing about people think they've got 10 years experience when they haven't. They've got 1 year's experience. They just repeated it 10 times.
Yeah, exactly. And also, so they're experiencing Groundhog Day. They want to be released from that. They have got bored of being the most important person in the business. The guy that wears the Superman pants, the guy that fixes everything, the one who knows absolutely everything. I mean, I went into one new client and he was literally the only guy, and this is the MD of a multi-million-pound business, he was the only one that knew how to fix the photocopier. So people get caught in these traps because they're just used to being the one that knows.
Yeah. And that's definitely something that they've created themselves, isn't it? But like you say, after a while, they get bored of it and tired of it.
Yeah. Do you know, I had another client who has prospered really well throughout COVID. And the reason that he's prospered well throughout COVID is that COVID forced him to stop and focus, and he couldn't create any more fires because actually COVID had created the biggest fire of all, and he just had to focus on fixing that. And he fixed it for his own business, which was mostly around cash flow, and he's transformed his business. What I'm trying to say there is that I think people, for reasons of their own significance, quite often create big problems so they can go and fix them.
So you're putting out fires all the time, but you're also the arsonist.
Yeah. Well, but that happens in real life, doesn't it? People, I think you get, no disrespect to anybody, but I think you get literally firefighters who start fires and then sort of run back and jump in the truck and go and put the fire out. I'm sure it never happens in this country, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. So where do you think that comes? If we take that a bit further upstream, because that really, that problem is a symptom of something. What's the cause?
As in, what is it a symptom of? Well, I guess at that point, you're getting into people's own need for significance. People want to be important. People want significance. And if the only place in their life they can get significance from is their business, then they're going to cling on to the business. But if they're getting significance from things that they do in the rest of their life, be it outside interests or whatever, then all of a sudden the business becomes nothing but a means to enabling them to get significance from something else.
But like you say, you get bored of it over time. I can really relate to that. I used to run nightclubs when I was younger, and when I first started, you know, you were the guy in charge, and there was 50 staff and 10 door staff, and it was all really exciting. You never knew what was going to happen. But when I've seen every scenario play out week in, week out, I just got thoroughly bored of it. Was no longer exciting, and I realized actually that I hadn't grown.
Yeah.
And that's why I think as coaches, what we do is we help people grow by challenging them in different directions. And I know you do that with your clients. Tell me how you do that with your clients.
By finding out what they want next. Again, I think that I take a slightly different view from some people, in so much as I don't think it's my job to raise the bar for them. I think it's my job to help them decide how they want to raise that bar. And more importantly, what is the point of raising the bar? Because, you know, we don't want to just end up a bit like you talked about just then. You know, if we're not careful, we're always chasing the next high. Well, that's just an addiction. So what is it we actually want out of our lives? Because as you and I would both say, you know, being in business is supposed to give you more life. So what's the more life that you want? And that takes me back to what you said before, which is what's the main thing I'm trying to help my clients get? I'm trying to get my clients to get more life. Now, some coaches will be very much focused on, massively improving profitability or scaling up for the 25 million exit or whatever it is. Well, that's not what I'm looking to do with my clients. And if somebody wants that, I'm not the right coach for them. And there are plenty of people out there who will help them to do that. So I'm trying to find, I suppose, I'm trying to help them find peace and joy. That's what I want. That's what I want for myself. I want peace and joy. I want to give my clients peace and joy. Otherwise, you just caught up in the hamster wheel, the rat race, and any other cliches I can think of.
It's interesting, isn't it? When we first meet clients, quite often we ask them what they want, and what they want is either sales, marketing, this, that, and the other. It's all doing stuff, and they can't really answer. Quite often, they can't answer the question, "Why do you want that?" Because they're just kind of like Groundhog Day, rat race. I just got to do this. I've just got to pay the bills. I've just got to get through to the next week, or get past COVID, or get past the next phase. And they're not thinking about themselves and their families, about what they want. And I know that there's lots of business owners out there who are out there saying, I'm doing this for my family. I'm working 70 hours a week for their family. You could go out and ask their family when they're eating their dinner without their dad or mum there, and you say, is this what you want? And the family goes, no, that's not what we want.
Oh, there are so many things there, Jeff, that I mean, the first of all is that business owners have hardly ever been asked the question, what is it you want? And also there's this thing about sort of suffering from the cause. I know when I was starting up this business, and on those tough days, my wife thought I was doing 12-hour days, whereas I was probably doing 12 hours in the office looking out the window. So working 70, 80 hours doesn't necessarily mean you are productively doing stuff for 70, 80
manifesting
hours.
Stuff.
You may well just be avoiding being somewhere else for 70 or 80 hours because it's a life that you don't like. And actually, so that's, I've had to learn this lesson for myself. I came out of corporate. I've been striving, bigger targets, whatever the boss said, I would jump and all the rest of it. And then I came out of corporate, I'm working for myself. And then it was the same behaviors, but then suddenly, and it was working with another coach who asked me the question, why? What is it you're doing? What do you want out of all this? And for me, I suddenly realized that I wanted quality of life. I wasn't bothered about being the one with the biggest coaching practice in the world. That's not what I wanted. I wanted the space to enjoy my life and my family and my kids. And that was a breakthrough for me. I suddenly realized I could do that a different way. And I think it's the same thing when I'm working with my clients, is that they don't have to kill themselves in order to get what they want. And the first question is, what do you want? And I think most business owners have never really been asked that question in a meaningful, challenging way, because it's a bloody hard question to answer.
So if someone's listening to that and they're starting to recognize themselves in the picture you're painting of the people that you work with, and they're going, okay, so I've been in the business 15 years and I am experiencing Groundhog Day and I'm working too many hours and I'm starting to question why the heck I'm doing this. What's next? What's next? What
do you mean? The process in terms of...
for that person, the person who's listening to this, what should they do? Apart from phone you up and work with you, what should they do next if they weren't going to do that?
Well, if they weren't going to ring me up?
Yeah. I don't see why they wouldn't, but let's just say
well, it doesn't matter who you're working with, you need to get a coach, because you need to have somebody who can ask you the questions you're not prepared to answer yourself. And most importantly, you need to have somebody who's going to ask you the questions and not accept bullshit. And when I say don't accept bullshit, that's not in a bullying kind of a way. It's the fact that we tend not to be entirely honest with ourselves or with other people until we have a bit of a breakthrough around honesty. So they definitely need to talk to somebody. Well, you can read books. There are plenty of books on self-discovery, but If that works for you, great. Personally, I need the interaction of speaking to another human being about this, because it's a very human process, and reading books doesn't work for me.
So when you're saying that people are sometimes dishonest with themselves, give me an example of that you can think of.
Well, if I was to speak to if I was to speak to a client right now, get somebody on the phone and speak to them, and I said to them 3 questions. First of all, so tell me, are you truly making as much money as you feel you deserve for the amount of work you put in? The answer I'll get 9 times out of 10 is yes, thank you. Whereas I'm pretty confident the answer is no. If I was to ask the average prospect, so tell me, are you truly happy with the amount of hours you work, or would you like to be working less? The answer I'll get 9 times out of 10 is no, I'm fine, thank you very much. I'm quite happy with the hours I'm working. Whereas I know, almost without doubt, the answer is no in a huge amount of cases. And then the final one is, that team you've got that costs you a huge amount of money, are you getting value from them? Yeah, best team ever. That will be the usual answer. Whereas 9 times out of 10, I suspect that's not true. But it's no different, Jeff, is it? When you walk onto that garage forecourt and somebody asks you, can I help you? What do you say?
No, thanks.
I'm just looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I suppose they're using the F word, aren't they? Of fine. Yes, fine.
yeah.
Yeah, fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
But and then the challenge is, could things be better than fine?
Yeah, that's a good question. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is
yeah, they could be.
Yeah.
I suppose, and I know that, speaking with personal, you can't always, if you're in a certain situation, you can't sit around moaning about it the whole time, which is why you say that it's fine. I'm not going to complain about it. And also, we're really conditioned to work 5 days a week, because that's what the school system does. It's part of that conditioning thing to get you into work mode. So we're conditioned to work 5 days a week. And then sometimes people, when they get to running their own business, they condition themselves from that point to work 6 or 6.5 and condition themselves to constantly be on duty. So then it becomes fine because you've done it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And you're used to it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's outside of the paradigm to think,
well,
what if I just worked like 3.5 days a week and I had 3.5 days off?
Yeah.
What would that be like?
Here's a mind-blowing question, Jeff. Again, I don't know, maybe ask the average business owner, but if you say, is it okay to make a lot of money and not work very hard? Instinctively, most of us from our childhood think it's wrong.
Mm.
We need to work hard, just like you said, we need to work hard for that. But actually, if you've got people, processes, and systems in place, and you've got a well-structured business, you've put all the work in up front. So then you ought to be able to sit back and enjoy enjoy the business and have it fund the lifestyle you want.
Yeah, that's when people get to that phase that I call it owner's guilt. And well, they're all working 40 hours a week, so I should too. I'm going to lead from the front.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine if you want to do that. I'm not going to judge anyone if they want to do that, but it'll hold you back. What happens if you want to start a second business or a third business?
Oh, do what? Yeah, I've had clients who've said to me, as we've made these breakthroughs, I'm a bit embarrassed, Dave, in case people who know me are going to be saying, well, so why aren't you in work much? And why are you doing all these other things? And what are you doing with your time? And they don't want to be put on the spot like that.
Mm. I remember speaking to 3 directors in one company, and I was talking to one of them specifically, and I said, well, what would it be like if you finished at lunchtime on a Friday, or you worked, had occasional couple of days off? And the other 2 kind of went, you're lazy, you're not. So they created this culture within the business that they've got to flog themselves to death.
Yeah.
And when one person, it wasn't even his idea, I just put it out there, and they were immediately going, whoa, no. But then I challenged the other 2 on that and going, is that the culture that you want? And I think they realized maybe it wasn't.
It's crazy. So again, it goes back with a caveat: do whatever it is you want to do, but don't do it because that's what other people think you should be doing. But we've all been brought up with that. So it all goes back right to the bare question, which is, what do you want? And even if you don't go down a business coaching route, there are plenty of other people who can help answer that question, which is, what do you want?
And you know, when I ask people that question, more often than not, the first answer is, no one's ever asked me that before.
Yeah. And then you start digging into why people are doing what they're doing, and quite often they're trying to prove things to people, and then they try to work out who it is they want to prove things to, and quite often it's not like, you know, fair enough if you want to prove stuff to your kids or something, lead by example, fantastic. But quite often, you know, people are, I was trying to prove stuff to my father who died 8 years ago. Yeah, because we just do stupid stuff like that sometimes until somebody else see it.
Yeah. Like I'm going to prove something to my kids about how successful I am, but actually what you're teaching them is you're going to work 60 hours a week, come home exhausted at 8 o'clock, be on your laptop and your phone checking emails and ignoring your family and not being present and being able to enjoy it. Maybe that's not the thing that you should be teaching your kids.
No, I agree. Nothing wrong with a good work ethic, but you don't have to be killing yourself.
Well, that's an interesting thing because in some respects, it's easier just to keep going, doing the same thing. So it's easier just to do the 60 hours a week. What's harder? And so I have a concept that I talk about, which is there's working hard and there's working long. So most people I meet that are they say they're working hard, they're actually working long because they're in Groundhog Day. They're just doing the same thing over and over. It fills up a lot of time. They're working long. But to work hard is actually to work on ways of systemizing that, delegating stuff out to the team, having the courage to let go and train people to work and do the stuff and take responsibility and have a system in place to monitoring their performance. Learning how to do that is working hard. Working hard doesn't mean that you have to work long.
Other than short term, sometimes you have to work hard whilst you're working long.
Yes.
But that's a means to an end, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to go through that. You have to go through the barrier. You don't immediately. I'm sure it's the same with you when you're working with people who want to reduce their working hours. It doesn't happen immediately because you've got to put stuff in place. I normally get a quick win from there's a load of stupid stuff that they'll be doing. Just the question I'll always ask, a couple of questions is, firstly, what do you think your value to the business is? And we'll normally settle on, I don't know, £100 an hour or something like that. And then the second question is, okay, so how much of the stuff you're doing in a working week could actually be done by somebody else at £15 an hour, £10 an hour work? And that's where the response I get firstly is normally, oh shit. And then secondly is somewhere between 40 and 99% is the thing.
I think that's brilliant.
Other people's jobs for them.
Well, I was going to say, it's not only doing jobs that aren't of your value, but it's how many jobs are you doing that you're simultaneously paying somebody else to do? And that's a big one. But quite often that goes back to Superman pants. They've structured it so that people feel they have to go to
run it by me. Run it by me.
Run it by me. Run it by me. My door's always open. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't make a decision without me.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many decisions do you change? Not many.
Yeah. But that's interesting, isn't it? So there's like the quick wins from there, but then there's the working hard to put the systems in place so you don't have to work long. Yeah. And the irony of it is, I'm pretty sure that at some point, if the growth of the business and the work rate of the owner is going up at a trajectory similar to each other, there becomes that point where the owner can't put in any more work. And if they think that their work and the revenue of the business is intrinsically linked, then at that point where they can't do any more, they'll start to consciously or unconsciously sabotage the business.
Yeah, I can see that.
So if they can break the link of that and actually then work goes down, because at that point you've got money and infrastructure that you can delegate and things like that. So you're not a one-man band at that point. Then actually you can start to leverage your own time, and the rate of increase of the business, I'm pretty sure in most cases, will increase.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think two things come to mind when you said that. One is the question I'm often asking people is if they can see that actually the value their brain brings to the business in terms of thinking about how that business should run is far more valuable than the brawn that they bring to the business. So actually, the less they do and the more they are in terms of being the owner, that's a big breakthrough. And that decouples the size of the business with how hard they're working, because they're simply organizing and running the systems and processes. And the other thing, I don't know if you've seen the same thing, but during COVID, I've seen a number of my clients significantly reduce the volume of business they're doing. They've had to let some staff go, and they've been more careful about their margins, and they're actually making the same amount of money but on less work, which makes us all realize just how often we chase business when actually we don't need to be chasing it.
Yeah.
You know, margin is everything.
And how businesses have acquired fat over the years.
Yeah.
Because COVID was a brilliant thing for trimming all that fat off. I spoke to a client, 150 people on his team, load of them furloughed, all the work stopped for a while. And I said, you got any that you're starting to wonder about not wanting back? He says, yeah, we got a list of people. I don't know what they did. And he said, to a man or woman, every last one of the people on the list were the busiest ones. The ones that were going, oh, I'm rushed off my feet, I couldn't take anything else on, and all that kind of thing. And actually, we don't even really know what they were contributing.
So the interesting point from that is obviously the client needs to do what they need to do in terms of downsizing, which is tragic from a human perspective. But also the lesson that needs to be learned is that, I don't know your client, but they weren't being honest with those employees in the first place. So what kind of reviews were going on? What kind of one-to-ones were going on? Because those people made themselves effectively redundant because they weren't keeping up with the times themselves, were they? Or at least putting their hand up and saying, I need training or I need development or something to
and I think in a fast growing business, that kind of thing gets overlooked. It's like, we're making a load of money, we're growing fast, everything's fine. It's only when there's an opportunity to stop and think,
I know
things change, and there's a lesson in that.
They're tragic, aren't they?
Yeah, because if there's no pain, you don't go looking.
No, well, why would you? Yeah, interesting.
So, David, to sum up the conversation today, someone's listening to this and they're in that place. What final advice would you give to them?
If they are in that place and they are feeling uncomfortable with the way that their life or their business is going, then that is a tap on the shoulder that they need to do something about it. They don't need to talk to you or me. There's gazillions of information out there on the internet. There's countless books and all the rest of it. But if they feel that a human interaction is more helpful, then they need to reach out to people like us, or other coaches are available. But that tap on the shoulder says it's not right. And if they ignore it, then it's probably only going to get worse in terms of the hours they work or the pressures they put themselves under. So I would say, if they're feeling that way, don't ignore it.
Because otherwise you end up being a boiled frog.
Yeah.
And to clarify what I mean by that, the boiled frog, now I haven't tested this myself, you'd be pleased to hear.
No frogs were involved.
Yeah, but apparently if you got a pot of boiling water and you put a drop of frog into it, it will jump out, scalded, bit angry, but it will survive. But if you put it in a bowl of tepid water, a pan of tepid water, and slowly increase the heat over a period of time, it will go, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Oh, it's getting a bit warm, because it doesn't notice the change over a period of time. It'll stay in there until it dies. And I think over a period of years and even decades, people become a boiled frog in terms of, the hours that they work, the way that their health is affected by stress and all that kind of thing. And that's why when you ask them, are you making enough money? Are you working the right amount of time? They'll go, oh yeah, it's fine. And they're in danger of being a boiled frog. So let's finish off the podcast today by saying, don't be a boiled frog. David, thank you so much for being on the call today. I really enjoyed having you on. If anybody listening to this would like to reach out to David, he is David Lee, LEE at actioncoach.com. Reach out to him and say hi. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll speak to you next time.